Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan and thanks for joining us for our Wednesday weather update recorded on the 23rd of July. High pressure is crossing the South Island at the moment, but we do have some energy out to the west. But that thundery burst of heavy rain out on the Tasman Sea exiting Australia doesn't have a straight line to New Zealand. In fact, it's going to be held up by a lot of high pressure in our part of the world, and we may not really be seeing proper rain until Tuesday of next week. So let's have a look and see what's going on. High pressure around New Zealand, not a lot of cloud, but it is cloudiest in the northeastern corner of the North Island, where there are still some showers, northern Hawke's Bay up to East Cape, and a little bit of cloud here and there in the coastal north, but conditions are clearing up. Beautiful sunny day on the way for many parts of New Zealand, and that means we've got some cold nights. Here is this evening, so it's going to be a cold night tonight. As that high crosses over many places, the winds are lighter. Still a bit of a southerly here, northern Hawke's Bay, right up to the tip of East Cape. Otherwise, not much is happening in the wind department, so that means frosts and fog patches are in the forecast. But this is the frost map for the next couple of mornings. Thursday morning, frost going up into Waikato and Bay of Plenty. Similar story here on Thursday and Friday. Shows you how far north this is all going. And of course, around Auckland and Northland, those two areas, very frost sensitive for plants. Other parts of the country, you get a frost, it's just another day in the office. Top of the country, you can end up wiping out a number of plants. So it's worth noting what is happening at the moment. Thursday lunchtime, not a lot of change. High pressure is in control. You can see the cold airflow still just nicking the northeast corner of the South Island. But now we're seeing northerlies and northwesterlies developing from Canterbury southwards. So that's going to help lift your temperatures up as we go through the next few days ahead. Wintry weather is getting pushed eastwards, so the Chatham Islands and, like I say, the northeast corner of the North Island still inside that polar airflow, but that is moving away as the warmer northerlies start to move on in. So by Friday, the high is now over the North Island and pushing out to the east, and this is where the high actually gets bigger. So it's going to move eastwards, the air pressure is going to go up, and the higher that the air pressure goes, the larger the whole system gets. So it's going to stretch right up into the tropics, and that is why that thundery burst of rain leaving Australia doesn't just come straight in and hit us. If we had no high pressure, that's exactly what would happen. We'd be in for some thunderstorms. But because the high is blocking it, you can see this line of low pressure and some wet weather, but it's being held up out at sea. Though we've got a bit of frosty weather still going into the weekend, but as those winds develop, the frosts become more inclined to be higher elevation around the mountains and not so much along the eastern side here and around central areas with those northwesterly winds developing. Maybe still some frost around Southland, spreading further towards the coastal areas and maybe Otago too. But the frost zone is still around a large part of New Zealand, but perhaps just not quite as strong as they've been. Here's how Saturday looks. So the high is out to the east over the Chatham Islands. Now, those of you around Hawke's Bay up towards the northeast corner are going to see some sunnier weather and the temperatures going up a little bit because that polar airflow well out to the east of New Zealand. So now we're into a warmer, more subtropical airflow. A few showers in the mix, northwesterly winds developing. Otherwise, Saturday doesn't actually look too bad, and neither really does Sunday, although certainly going through the morning here and into lunchtime, we have some showers appearing in the top half of the North Island. Bay of Plenty northwards. Waikato looks mostly dry, but we'll see showers around Coromandel, Auckland and Northland. And a mild day, relatively speaking, thanks to the subtropical winds that are now coming down. Although the winds aren't very strong in the South Island, so cold nights are still going to be a thing going into Sunday. Probably not so much by Monday though. The high getting stronger, so it's pushing back now a wee bit towards us. It's certainly ballooning out to Tonga and Fiji. And now that warmer airflow coming down with showers and patchy areas of rain. This is not a major rain event by the looks of it here on Monday, but it is windy. And with the low pressure developing here in the Tasman versus the high getting stronger, it means those winds get even windier. And so by Tuesday, severe weather risk day on Tuesday, severe gales from the northwest and some heavy rain with possible thunderstorms. This line right here coming in over Northland and Auckland, Taranaki, and yes, down into Nelson, Tasman, maybe Marlborough as well. So Tuesday of next week, there is this severe weather risk around the country before the next wintry change for Australia comes our way in the form of showery westerlies. So a few things going on. Here is the 4-day rainfall, not much in the way of rain. Remember the pink shading here 0 to 5 millimetres. So that just might be a brief spit of rain or a shower that doesn't do anything. So pretty much dry across the country, but you do notice here in the far north, it's getting a little bit wetter. So we jump to the 7-day map, and that's where you capture next Tuesday's rainfall. And that's where you start to see top of the South Island, Mount Taranaki and Northland showing up with some heavy rain. I don't really mention the West Coast because it's not so problematic for you, but these northern areas are all worth keeping an eye on for next week. But look, if you're around Canterbury, Otago, Southland, not very much in the way of rain on the way. That is all from me for today. I'll see you again tomorrow, Thursday, as we take a closer look at the weather that's developing across the weekend and, of course, the outlook for next week. We'll see you then.